All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here, GSD Mode Studios with another real estate tip. And today I want to talk to you about all of these institutions, all these large investor institutions, the Blackrocks, the Blackstones of the world. They're swallowing up so much, buying up so much real estate, so much property all across the United States. And, common thing that I'm getting reached out to, whether it be agents on my own team or those that listen to the podcast or coaching clients or so forth all throughout the country is, hey, how do I go out there and compete with these institutions? What do I do to grow and expand my business? I've got these institutions that are, not only do we have inventory shortage or we're getting, 20 offers on every single property, but then it's not just consumers, buyers competing against regular buyers. We've got these huge institutional investors that are coming in, outbidding, and such a competitive landscape. And look, I get it. Our market, my market, here in Phoenix, Arizona, we are inundated with them. We're really kind of the testing ground here for whatever reason with, the prop tech, space. I mean, we were not just prop tech, but also these institutional investors. It's one of the big places where Invitation Homes got their start, one of the primary markets, but where Zillow started doing their Zillow offers. I know that that's no longer around, but we seem to be where Open Door got their start, where a lot of these institutions not just get their start, but man, it's just rampant. They are everywhere, and it is a daily thing for us, and has been for a lot of time. So, we've had to really go out there and pivot to this. I started working with a lot of these institutional, with Invitation Homes, which is at the time was funded by Blackstone. I started working with them in about 2011. So I have a lot of years of experience, working with different hedge funds and large institutional investors and so forth. And I want to let you know, what you can do if it happens to be that you are in a market where they're buying a lot of real estate, which is, I know most of you all throughout the United States. Now, the first thing that I want you to understand is the importance of the fact that we just have to pivot throughout our careers. Like there's a lot of different times where markets shift. If I look at my, almost 18 years of real estate experience now, was, crazy market, crazy traditional market, very low inventory, 2005, 2006. Then the market started to change, and then it fell off a cliff. We went into the GFC, great financial crisis, started working with, a lot of, short sales, working with, 35 plus different banks and into, asset managers through that time. Then when the market bottomed out, that's when I saw a lot of these hedge fund institutions, sweep in, acquiring a lot of property. So I had to pivot my business to there. Then the market recovered, went back to traditional business. And, for really about the last 3 years, but it's been a little bit of a mix of all of it. A lot of traditional business, but a lot of institutional, investor clients and so forth through different products, which I'll talk to you about here today. But, we just need to understand that things shift. So you can't expect to do what you did yesterday, like what you did in 2020 or what you did in 2021 may or may not work today. So if you are against a wall right now, if you're experiencing massive resistance, it could be a thing that you just haven't been paying attention in the right ways, and that you need to shift to where there's more opportunity in your market. Because here's the great thing is, historically, at least, we don't know what the future holds, but historically, real estate has always traded hands. So there's always somebody out there buying, there's always somebody out there selling. And I live by a motto that there is no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. So me as a real estate professional, I look at it as my primary job to identify whom the market is good for and be able to shift my marketing, prospecting efforts, and so forth, to whom the market is good for. The other thing that I want you so understanding that, then I want you to also, just in case you're somebody that falls in this camp, because I have been having a lot of conversations, over the last about a year and a half or 2 years, where these institutions kind of just exploded in a lot of markets. And, a common thing that I hear is I'm just going to ride this out and wait till things get back to normal. Or, I can't wait till things get back to normal. Well, I'm not a fan of that. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset. Like what is normal? And what's your level of certainty that we're going to get back to normal? What if there is no normal? What if this is what it is to be, for a long time to come? And maybe it's indefinitely. I don't know. This has lasted a hell of a lot longer than I thought it would, with this insane appreciation that we're experiencing in these institutions acquiring property and so forth. And I've read certain reports of different, plans of attack, if you will. We're in this funky time where it's like we've got our government here in the United States that is partnered and teamed up with, if you will, with big business, so big tech, big business, the big banks, and these big institutions. Like they've all become one. It's this funky time. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure out like if one is, if it's big business or if it's the banks that are, in charge of the government or the government in charge of them, like if there's an ultimate string puller or if this just collaboration that is taking place. But there is this intense collaboration that is taking place. And the reason why I share this is it will create some framework for the next thing I'm about ready to share you here. So the other day, I read that there is a plan by the United States, as well as a lot of other large nations out there, to acquire 30% of the property and water within your own nation by 2030. So if that is the case, right now, at least at this time, that little bit of digging I was able to do was that the government owns about 12.5%. And so if you look at that, right, they're like less than, they're not even halfway there yet. Now, the reason why I said that there is this, and we see this in all aspects of life, but this almost combining, coming into one, working simultaneously together in this partnership, because it's maybe not the government going out there and buying this property. It might be Blackrock. Well, I don't know, Blackrock appears to me to be like the fourth branch of the government, right? And I know that, Blackrock's got investors and, like I said, between Vanguard and all these cross owning each other. And it's such a complicated system. That's why I say that seems to be financial institutions, big business and so forth, that is in this collaboration and this very close type of a partnership, with them. And when we're looking at acquiring, at least in my market, your Blackrocks of the world and your Blackstones of the world. And then they have, a shit ton of funds underneath them that are, they're just acquiring everything from every storage unit in town to as much property as they possibly can. And we're seeing this in most places throughout the United States, so if that are to be hold true, and if the plan is, or their plan is to acquire as much real estate to turn us into more of a renter's nation and so forth. Now, I don't know that to be true, right? I've read a lot of documentation where it makes sense that and watching the actions that they're taking, where that could be part of their plan. The tell sign will be when we enter the next recession that we enter. Historically, during recessionary time frame, your big hedge funds and so forth will start liquidating. Sorry, I had a meeting snooze that popped up. So they'll start liquidating their balance sheet. So are they going to start liquidating and putting these homes on the market? Are they going to put them on the market to for us and our clients to go out there and acquire and buy? Are they going to sell those through other institutions? And where it gets a little confusing is because these institutions all kind of cross own each other. If they're fire selling, like when we saw Zillow fire sell so many properties that they did that were acquired by other institutions, if you do some digging, there's some cross ownership there where it might just be a great way for them to write some debt off the balance sheet, and so forth. And just get properties that they maybe overpaid for, and then fire some over here where this company takes this loss, but then another one of their entities is able to go in there and acquire these. Who knows? Right? Again, it's a very complicated system out there. I'm sharing all of this with you and this is a conversation I'm having with my teammates over and over and over of like, look, we got to plan on like this is what we know, and this is what it's been taking place for the last few years, last 2 years, kind of since the start of COVID, on a bigger scale than ever before. We are working with a lot of these institutions pre-COVID, but it's just exacerbated since. So been having a lot of conversations with my teammates and so forth of like, look, like we got to scale this up, man. Like we can't keep just waiting for, okay, the market to crash to, whatever. And for them to start liquidating balance sheets, because who knows if that will ever happen, and so forth. Like we got to go off of the data that we have, based on that, make decisions based off of what's taking place right now, right? Because the thing is, now I would argue that and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that because I know that for a fact this is going to, follow this and we're only months away from this or so forth. But like, dude, like I don't see any end in sight unless there's something catastrophic that takes place, of this taking place. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, a year from now that this doesn't slow down. Okay, we'll shift and pivot at that time. But you got to make those shift and pivot decisions based on what's taking place and what the trends are in real time in your markets. So again, market shift, you got to understand that, you got to know that. And then throughout this, we got to then shift. One of the most important things is to be able to identify who your ideal client or ideal clients are in any given market and be able to pivot your strategy to those. So in order, and I'm going to give you some examples and actual live examples, and maybe these are ways that you guys can go in and get in with some institutions in your market. And I'll share those with you, the companies that we work with and represent and do a lot of business with out here. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't, get any financial incentive to, give these to you, just to hopefully help you out in your market. And we do a lot of business, about 50, 60 million a year in business with these different institutions. That can be a huge leg of your business as well. But I personally have come up with a 5-step strategy for identify my ideal client. Now, this will work in any market. It doesn't matter where you're located or what the market is that we're experiencing, meaning buyer's market, seller's market. If you're in a rural market, if you're in a highly populated market, this applies, and this really applies to all business, right? It doesn't matter what niche you're in or what industry you're in as far as a business. So here's the overall 5 steps. So the first thing is to identify who your ideal client is. And then I'll break down the rest is really how to go out there and develop your marketing and then go out there and get them as a client. So all this will come full circle in a minute. So when we're looking at your ideal client, in a perfect world, your ideal client would be, okay, who you like working with the best, who you enjoy working with the best, who you connect with the best, who sends you the most, repeat referral business. That's a perfect world, right? But the world isn't always perfect. So you got to also look at where is the opportunity at? Where's the biggest opportunity at? Where's that opportunity at in my market? Because there's going to be certain times where your ideal client that you're going after isn't a type of business maybe that you enjoy so much, but it's where the biggest opportunity is at for you to be able to take care of your business and creating opportunities for your family, and so forth. Just how it is. I'll just give an example with this. When I got into during the great financial crisis of 2008 through 2012, we represented a lot of the major financial institutions out there, a lot of the banks and so forth. And that wasn't necessarily fun business. I mean, there's parts of it that I enjoyed, but there was a lot like, having to go knock on doors and evict people from their homes, having to, go with the sheriff and have sheriff's guns pulled and doing evictions. And I got to be there as the bank representation and, being a human punching bag for some of these asset managers. Some of them that I worked with were amazing and awesome and great to me. But there was a lot where, man, I was a human punching bag as well. I'm sure they just got ripped, by their manager and now they're taking it out of me. So there was, that may not have been my favorite environment to work in and the favorite type of business I like to do. But in my market, that's where the business was at that time. And we had to go out there and do what we had to do. So it's not always, who do I want to work with and who do I enjoy working with? As an example, about 6-7 months ago, one of my newer agents on my team, they really connected with first-time buyers. And so I start breaking this down. We start going through and breaking this down and tell me the price point. I'm like, look, that doesn't even exist in our market anymore. So you'd be chasing. I don't care how good you are at lead generating with that type of clientele. I don't care how great you connect with them, how great you are at converting them to a client. If you don't have a product that you can actually sell them, none of it fucking matters. Right? So like we just got to X this and then again, go to where that opportunity is at. So you know your market, right? So you know what your market is. And again, this applies to, so you have team leaders, broker owners, like this applies to agent recruiting. This applies to everything, right? So I use this strategy for all of it. But looking at, okay, so we'll speak to actually real estate sales right now. So looking at in your market, okay, like what is selling, right? What is the type of product that is selling? Is in your market, is it a ton of condos, townhouses, is it single family attached properties? Like what is, what does everybody else want? What's selling? Where's it selling at? Like where's the, physical locations that are hot, that things are selling? What are those price points? Who is buying? Who is selling? And then, we want to even get a little bit deeper into what the reason is for those people to buy and sell and so forth. Right. So then I could start to be able, okay, well, this is what I'm going to focus on. Like in my market right now, I mean, there's really not shit under 500 grand, so we might be focusing on that 500,000 to $1 million price point in my market. And okay, well, here's the cities that we want to go after. Here's within those cities, here's the zip codes, here's the subdivisions, that we really want to go out there and dominate and go, whatever. And that's, but then we can identify, okay, who's buying those, who's selling those. If they're selling, well, why are they selling? Are they moving up? Are they relocating? If they're relocating, where are they going? Is there opportunity there for referral partnerships? All of those things, so the more data and intel that you can have on this, this is a strategy for a reason. A strategy is just an effective plan, right? So this is a 5-step lead generation strategy. So identify who your ideal client is. And you don't need to just have one ideal client. We have multiple different ideal clients that we work with. We have our institutions, our investor, ideal client that we work with, our investor partners. We have our traditional businesses, primarily move up buyers, those that already have a home that are looking to sell that home and move up, in the traditional market. So you can have multiple. And I'm not saying to adopt mine, and so forth. Like a good friend of mine that works in Southern Florida, in Miami. her ideal client is relocations, and we started, okay, well, where are they coming from? Well, a lot of these are coming from New York. We were able to pivot and pinpoint, okay, what states, but then also within that, what metropolitan areas, and so forth. Then we're taking a step further. What do those people do for a living? What are their interests? What are they into? So all those things allow us to get more targeted with our marketing. So the first step is to just identify who your ideal client is, right? But you got to know what that product is, of that they're going out there and buying. Then once we know who your ideal client is, then we can start breaking down, and what maybe you have, a group of people, or you can just do averages of, who's buying this when it comes to demographics. So once we have your ideal client, that's step one. Then from there, what are the demographics of that ideal client? So demographics are the statistics, like what are their age ranges? Are they married? So like in my business right now, it's upper middle class, it's affluent, and it's institutions. That's who we're working with. Now, institutions might be harder to come up with demographics, right? But if it is, for the others, it's very easy. So, what are their ages, age ranges? What are their income ranges? What is that price point? So forth. Like that's just the stats of their life. Maybe it's, 25 to 52-year-old married couples have two kids on average, making $200,000 to $300,000 in income, working in these specific industries, on average, and so forth. And it can be a little bit more vague when you're starting this. You'll get, a little bit more granular if you can start identifying, some of our ideal clients. Some of my agents, as we start really narrowing this down, are really focused on those that work in the tech industry, because we're a big tech market. So then they could start marketing, with LinkedIn and so forth, to people that work at those, within those certain tech firms, whatever it may be. So we're going to identify the demographics. So that's step number two. The third step here is to identify the psychographics. Now, the demographics are the statistics. The psychographics are the emotional component. This is the conversation taking place in their mind. So we want to know, well, why are they buying? Why are they selling? Where are they going? And not just about real estate, but in speaking to real estate, the demographics make up the statistics of what they're buying and who they are that's buying it. The psychographics are the reasons as to why they're making that move, right? But the more deep that you can get in the psychographics, and this is why niching down is so important, because the more that you niche down, the more clear that you can get on these things. But you want to know, like even in their personal lives, what keeps them up at night? What are their fears? What are their passions? What are their goals? What do they love doing? And so forth. All right, so we got your, so identify your ideal client. Then we're looking at your demographics. Then we're looking at your psychographics. Then we look at where do they congregate? So congregation, it's a fancy term of where they hang out, right? So where do they hang out offline, online? And so like, where are their eyeballs at? Where are they at? You got to make sure that you're showing up where they're at. So a gentleman named Perry Marshall, who wrote a good book, the 80-20 rule, talks in there. And this is an extreme example, but I love it because it articulates a great point here. He's like, look, dude, if I'm selling Bibles, I'm not going to go to the strip club to try to sell Bibles. The readers of my Bible probably aren't hanging out there, right? Like I need to make sure I'm showing up to where people that would read that Bible are at. And then I could go out there and try to initiate those services, right? So got to make sure whatever you're at, like if you're marketing online, which I'm a big fan of, well, I gotta know, man, are they on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? Or are they on Facebook? Well, I know that Facebook has dominated, even surpassed LinkedIn for the affluent. So in this current market right now, with our prices being so high, Facebook is a juggernaut for me. I don't get a lot of results off Instagram. I'm not even gonna waste my damn time with TikTok and some of these other platforms, because I'm gonna go to just where my ideal clients' eyeballs are at. So this will also alleviate a lot of time waste that you might have, and going out there and feeling like, okay, well, I got to know all these platforms and how do I use all these? Dude, you don't need to use all the like all you need to do is master the platforms that your ideal client is hanging out on. If you want to go use the other platforms for fun in your life and for shits and giggles because you enjoy it, great. But I'm not like, I don't know, TikTok is lame as hell to me, right? Like I'm not going to spend any time there unless it's for business. My ideal client's on there, then I'll go master it. So I'm going to look at, okay, where are they at? Are they on YouTube, right? Are they watching YouTube videos? Are they punching things into Google? Right? Are they on LinkedIn? Where are they at? Right. And then this isn't just online. This is also offline. Are they part of networking events? Maybe they're really involved with their kids' school and you want to, start showing up at, getting involved with, the local schools, whatever that may be, like where do they congregate? Where do they hang out? Whether it's in-person events or online events, from there. Now, the fifth element is then what are your personal strengths? how do you want to grow your business? And by this, I mean, you got to be really clear on, not just what your strengths are, but an enjoyment factor as well. I found that this is really important. Like for me, as an example, I hate cold calling. I hate door knocking. I'm not going to do those things. And the great thing with the industry that we're in, you guys, is there's thousands of ways to go out there and skin a cat. You don't have to, it's like we're selling Kirby vacuums or selling, solar units at homes where door knocking is our only way to go out there and lead generate, grow your business in the way that you enjoy it. That also meets with your model. Maybe you want to grow a business, where that gives you freedom of schedule and time. Well, it probably wouldn't make sense to go out there and build your business off knocking 100 homes a day, because that would make sure that wouldn't give you freedom of time or schedule, right? That would be the opposite of what you want. So I'm looking at my overall business and I'm making these decisions based on, where do I want my business to look in 5 years, 10 years, what's winning in business for me, and how do I enjoy doing business? I'm attraction based. I want people coming to me, reaching out to me. So I do attraction based online marketing. Takes effort to learn, takes effort to set up and so forth, but I hate the phone, right? I hate door knocking. So then I don't have to go out there and do those things. All of it's effective. All of it works. Like everything works, nothing doesn't, so really then, boils down to what aligns with your strengths. And then when we're looking at our strengths, and starting as general as, do I want to do inbound or outbound? Yeah, right. Outbound is prospecting based where you're chasing. Inbound is more attraction based where they're coming to you. Okay, well, want to do inbound or outbound? That then will very, really quickly determine what your, then we start looking at where they congregate. Okay, well, if I'm doing outbound, that could be calling, that could be door knocking, that could be pop buys, that could be network events, that could be, other things. If it's inbound, that might be direct mail, that might be online ads, that might be, YouTube videos, that might be Facebook ads, that might be, other things of getting them to come to me. So really breaking that down and identifying that. So now that we know your ideal client and we've got the demographics of the ideal client, that shows us who we are going after, right? Who we are targeting. The psychographics give us what your message needs to be. Then the congregation is where we need to show up. And then with your personal strengths, the last step there is how we are going to show up. So now we know our who, what, where, and how. Put that together, that then brings up your overall lead generation strategy. Now, an important thing to understand, with these, and I was just having this conversation with a lot of my agents on this past Tuesday on my team, in our team meeting just a couple of days ago, or just yesterday actually, but having a conversation with them, and I'm like, all right, like, look, you guys, you got decisions to make, and they all operate their business a different way. My job is, to coach them and help them and support them with that. But I'm like, look, you either got to make a decision whether you want to compete against these institutions, meaning, okay, I'm going to go out there and represent just traditional clients that are competing against these institutions, and in our market, just to put some context here. I think I said this earlier, but just in case, it's not just all these buyers putting in offers that are competing against regular buyers, man. It's these institutions coming in and just eliminating the competition, because they're getting free money from the government or from what we call Federal Reserve, whatever. They're essentially getting, about as close to free money as you can possibly get. And they can come in there and they got a shit ton of deep pockets, right? So they can come in there and outbid even though the highest offer might be $100,000 above appraised value, and our buyers willing to waive the appraisal gap, all the crazy things running in this crazy market, they might outbid that 50, 60 grand, whatever that may be. So, okay, you can compete against them, or you can go out there and work with them, identify who the institutions are in your market. They need to acquire property. They need realtor representation, right? So you can figure out how to partner with them and help them go acquire property. Or the third option is you can identify what their buy box is. Well, buy box is just the term that these investment institutions and so forth, a lot of investors use, meaning what the criteria is. So let's just say in your market, they're not buying anything over $700,000, just as an example. Okay, well then I'll just go, okay, my niche is going to be, I'm going to still apply all those things I said before, what's moving, what are those areas, but in a price point that then these institutional investors aren't even going after. So then it's a non-issue and I don't have to worry about them competing, with me and so forth. And it could be a combination of those three. It doesn't have to be, either or of those three, but you got to make some decisions there, with that. So just looking at that and taking that down. Now, a couple of ways just to give you guys an idea of how we work with some of these institutions. There's one that we work with that is actually owned by Blackstone, funded by Blackstone. called HPA, Home Partners of America. They're, for the most part, they're most metropolitan markets all throughout the country, free to sign up with. They have like a hour-long webinar. It might even be 45 minutes that you got to go through. They give all the requirements, what they're looking for, and so forth. And this has been a great program. What this is as far as like the Blackstones and Blackrocks of the world, these big institutions swallowing up all this property. This is the one program that I get excited about, that I really like, because it helps out our clients, meaning our actual buyer clients. And I'll explain that here in a minute, but it's one of the only ones that I know of that's a win for everybody. And there's others outside of Home Partners of America. There's, Trio, there's Divvy, there's, others out there. But this is a rent to own, rent to purchase program, but it's different than what when I first heard rent to own, I'm thinking of just your traditional lease purchases. I'm like, oh no, massive headache, massive pain in the ass, no thanks. So I had some resistance in the beginning, but I didn't understand how the program worked, right? So essentially what we do is we go out there and we find, it's kind of like a reversal of this standard investment process. A typical buy and hold investor might, hire me as their realtor to go find them a property. I'll go find them a property that meets their criteria. They close on it, might fix it up. Then they go find a renter to get in the property. Then they rent that property to them. So what Home Partners of America does is they reverse it. They find the renter first, let the renter go pick out the house that they want. Then Blackstone, or through Home Partners of America, and we'll represent them through this transaction. So we're actually representing Home Partners of America or Blackstone. It's Home Partners of America, but it's owned and funded by Blackstone. So we represent them. So we're actually not even representing the tenant or soon to be owner of the property. We're representing Home Partners of America that come and acquire the property. So we get our full co-broke right up front, or whatever they're offering. When I say full co-broke, that's on there. And they're aggressive with their purchases. They're a good partner to come in. Like they're there to acquire properties, man. We do a shit ton of deals with them monthly, annually, and so forth. So they'll come out there, they'll acquire it on their behalf, on our client's behalf. And then from there, our clients can move in, and it's different in each market. In our market, it's 90 days where our client can buy that house back within 90 days, but they also reserve the right to buy that house anytime within the next 5 years at pre-negotiated prices. So it's like 4% year over year, right? They don't have to, they can continue renting it. So like right now in this market, when we have somebody that's maybe really concerned with, dude, the market's going to crash. It's like, okay, well, this is a great alternative program, to go out there and, hedge against a crash, because you don't have to buy it. But if it doesn't crash for the next 5 years and you feel differently about it and you want to move forward, you've got this preset, a price at it. And then, like the rental market, our market sucks. There's very few rentals and so forth, where this is that opens up a whole new, basket of opportunities, because these are homes for sale on the market that then they can go in there and look at. So, rents, all of this is disclosed up front. All the rents are disclosed up front, what the purchase is. So our market here in Phoenix, Arizona, or Phoenix Metro, I should say, we increased like 37% in 2020, 32% in 2021. So we have clients that acquired a property, with them last year, are now, maybe now they got their credit fixed or whatever that may be. Now they're buying that property. They're only paying 4% more of appreciation because it's all pre-built into this contract. So they're walking into 40, 50, sometimes, $1,000 of equity when they're purchasing that property. So it could be a huge win for everybody. So we found this to, somebody's on the quite not there being able to qualify, because the requirements to qualify through Home Partners of America aren't quite as stringent as they are to qualify for a regular loan. So it might be people that maybe just need a little bit of TLC on their credit, and maybe that year to get, above a 700 credit, whatever it may be. It's great for our reloads in our market, for people that are like, hey man, I think I like this area, but I don't know for sure. They're moving 2,000 miles away, and this gives them a chance to test drive the property. So they love it. Also those that are maybe need some down payment assistance, need closing costs help, that are, whatever it may be, that right now it's just a competitive market, gives them the power of being that cash buyer. So it helps us go out there and do a lot of business and offer a tool that, a certain subset of our clientele loves. And being fully honest with you guys, I mean, a lot of our clientele without this product would have been obsolete from being able to partake in this current market. So, it can be a huge win-win. And that's one that's available for most of you in all of your markets. Another one that's available for most of you in your markets, I do believe, I think that this one's, I can't remember if it's $99 a month, I think, to be a part of them for the underwriting software, but it's called Zoodealio. I actually did a podcast a while ago with the owner who's a long-term friend of mine. But they got their start here, and we were kind of a beta test with them. But they've come in and they just solve a problem for us. Now, the thing I like about Zoodealio is they only work with agents. So the general public can't go to them. They're like the only agent-centric institution, iBuyer, that allows all of us to become our own iBuyer, if you will. They only work with us. So, it's unlike an Open Door of the world or OfferPad or Zillow Offers when they were out there live. Like, they only work through the agents. And I have no financial affiliation with any of these companies I'm sharing with you guys here. So, just sharing different examples of how we do business with these. Not to say to go do business with these either, but just to get those wheels turning of how can you thinking of like, how can I go out there and partner with different institutions that's a win-win for my clients, and so forth, and go out there and gain business. So through them, they've got a program that we love that is their Sell Plus. So it's a trade up program. So they'll come in. If one of my clients, I told you earlier that one of our ideal sets of clients, traditional clients, are move up buyers. So they got a home they need to sell, but they need this home to sell so they can gain the equity to go out there and buy this house. So it's called the home that they're living in right now. They need to sell home A, home they want to buy home B. And this market, getting a seller to accept their offer that would be contingent on their current home selling is like non-existent. So again, these programs help our local clients that would have been obsolete from going out there and partaking in this crazy freaking insane ass market that we're in, right? So they'll come in, put an offer on home A, the current home that they're living in now. If those terms work, right, then from there, I'll take my clients, we'll go out there and pick out the house that they want. Then Zoodealio will come in there and buy house B. They'll offer and buy house B for them on their behalf. So that Zoodealio close on house B. Once Zoodealio closes on house B, then we close on house A. Allow the clients to move in from the current home into the new home. And then now they have the funds available, and then they sell them house B. And it's, it's a markup of a fee. It ends up being about 7% on this that they're paying this investor, but otherwise they wouldn't be able to go out there and buy and they wouldn't be able to go out there and partake in this market together. So, it's not a win for everybody, but a big percentage of our clientele, they love it. And it's a big win for them and they're ecstatic for it, through that. And as far as like closing on home A and then selling back, closing on home B, they've got such a streamlined process. The streamlined is, deals can be, I don't want to say deals are messy with them. I'm just saying that, things come up with, underwrite, whatever it may be. On average, it was like 40 to 72 hours. So it's a quick process. Sometimes there might be a delay where it goes a week, but they've got the process pretty dialed in. Another thing that they recently started doing, which I believe is beta in our market, I don't know if it's in other markets yet, but we're seeing a lot of these power buyers come out. I know Zillow's working on a power buyer platform right now as well, but they will come in. So we work with Zoodealio on this as well in our local market. And they'll come in and buy, like, let's just say we just have a buyer that's getting beat out home after home after home. They will come in and buy the house for them on their behalf, charge like a $1,600 flat fee, sell the house back to them. So it's like a $1,600 flat fee, but then the investor is actually the servicer on that loan. And I've heard, that Zillow is going to be coming out with this because they have their mortgage, department and power buyers are becoming more and more available and rampant out there, more different offerings of this that are doing this, so it gives our buyers the power to be a cash buyer for a very low additional extra fee, $1,600, but then the investor wins because now they're the owner of that loan, right? They're making the interest on that loan long-term and so forth. Now, Invitation Homes, which was the first who was owned at Blackstone or funded by Blackstone at the time, before they sold them off. First big institution I started working with. Now, when I was reaching out to them, I want to share this story because this is like I couldn't take no as an answer, and I had to look for a workaround. And this is really important to understand, right? Because like sometimes like you got to get creative with this shit. So Invitation Homes, they're out here acquiring a shit ton of properties at the time, like 250 a month, or it might have even been 500. I can't remember the exact number, but this was like back in like 2011. So they kept reaching out to me because they wanted to buy my properties. And so I got to know, whoever I was dealing with on their end and got to know the underwriter over there. And I wanted to get in there and be able to represent them on purchases, not just selling on my listings, and they were upfront with me of like, hey, look, we already got our people. We got 5 agents doing these offers for us. There's no chance of you getting in for whatever reason. We don't need to get into that reasoning here, but I was just told that, okay, hey, like, that's not possible. But I'm like, well, you guys keep reaching out to me. Why are you reaching out to me? saying I can't go out there and offer, like go out there and find you deals and just write offers for you on your behalf. And of course they underwrite them and so forth. But if I can't represent you there, like, why do you keep reaching out to me? They're like, well, you got a ton of listings. You got the inventory, and we need listings. And I'm like, okay, so if they're my listings, I can send them to you and represent you on them. I'm like, well, what else? How else can I represent you? And like, oh, if you find us any off-market deals, then you can represent us on all off-market deals. So as long as they didn't hit the MLS, I could represent them. So I'd go out there and I serve them with FISBOs and other things of just trying to bring them offers. Well, then I went out there, I'm like, yeah, I got 68,000 agents in my market. Let me go out there and start reaching out to other agents in my market and just saying, hey, I got this, this institutional investor buying properties. At that time, they're paying top dollar, just like they are right now on a lot of properties. So I'll get you a cash offer before your house hits the MLS. And I discounted my commission, right? Because like, look, so I let's just say as an example, they're paying, I don't know, 6%, whatever it is. And this was Bob the market. So home prices were a lot less. You may not get that commission today, but you're probably making a hell lot more money, even if you're getting less commission today than I was at that time, because these were, 100, 120,000 units at that time, right? But I was like, okay, like if you're offering a 6% commission, and we get this, go to terms on this and get this accepted, I'll give you 50% of that, my commission back to you. So you make 4.5%, I make 1.5%. Now I don't talk about, like, I'm not a big fan of discounting per se, and not something that we, typically, do with our, and so forth. And I don't judge anybody, but you do whatever you want to do. I don't think there's a right or wrong with that game. But here, all I was doing, you guys, is that agent would send me the information with the pictures. I would then forward that to the underwriter, right? I'd remove the other agent's name because I needed to be the middleman and protect myself as the middleman. But I'd forward that to the underwriter, right? They give me an offer. I'd forward it to them. If we're in agreement, like get the contract done up, and then boom, then I was out of it. Like the Invitation Homes did their own inspections, they closed on things quick. So for me, like trading, like I'd spend 2 minutes trading emails and get a deal done. So to me, making 1.5% for 2-3 minutes of work of just trading emails, it was a win for everybody, right? So these are different ways of how can you go out there and partner with institutions and do different things in your market to take advantage, if you want to. Again, you can choose to go out there and compete head to head with them, which in my market, it's very competitive to do. And not that we don't do that in instances. Like I said, it doesn't need to be either or with these. It can be a combination of all of it, but then from there, these are, like I'm telling you guys right now, unless something dramatic happens, and I don't even know what that could be. Enter World War III, have a civil war, the whole entire financial system just freaking crashes and they can't get allocated funds, and have access to funds that they do. I mean, it's got to be something severe for this to change the trajectory that they're on right now. But there's companies out there like Block Power that are funded by Goldman Sachs, Microsoft, Jeff Bezos's fund, and half a dozen other deep pockets, that are trying to acquire 100 million plus units and then turn them into green smart properties and go out there and lease them back. Right. I mean, this is all actively happening right now. They're not slowing down. They're speeding this process up. So then from there, it's, hey, do I want to compete with them? Do I want to figure out how to get, partner with them and help them accomplish their goals? That's a lot of property to be had, and sometimes I'll get from people of, well, like these institutions swap all this property or ruin the American dream. And, it's not right to go out there and represent them and so forth. Look, they're going to acquire these properties with or without you. Your resistance to it is just going to get you steamrolled, and we don't know what their future plan is. They might want to liquidate. You don't know what those are, right? But if you can create win-win platforms by partnering with them for you and your business, and then you and your clients, like I've shared with you, or like I said, you can also, if you don't want to work with them and don't want to work with institutions, okay, well then figure out and identify where are they buying, what are they buying in my market, and then let me flip my niche. So then competition is a non-issue. Then you don't have to compete altogether. Figure out those price points, those products that they want or don't want, and then go out there and specialize in those niches, and again, you can do a combination of all three as well. But these are different things that we're doing to pivot and shift and do a lot of business. And it's been a huge supplement of our business. I mean, last year we did about 200 million as a team in gross volume sales. And like I said, about 60 million of that came from these, different institutional investors. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue tied there, through this. So, it could be a big percentage of your business. Most of our business is still traditional business, but we'd be doing about that'd be 140 million versus 200 million of gross volume sales. That's a big difference, and with these institutions, continuing to take up speed. We're bringing in on our team meeting this Friday. I'm bringing in some people that I know specialize in prop tech and are really, in front of it, so we can get a better idea of, hey, what exists now, what's coming, how do we need to, further prepare, and develop these partnerships and do this, the next level, right? From there. So anyway, I hope you guys found this helpful. Keep crushing it, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you next time. Peace.